On this Saturday night, the new COVID-19 variant lands in Canada. Ontario confirms 2 cases of the more contagious UK strain as millions in England face even tougher restrictions. A Boxing Day like no other. Non-essential shops close and restaurants are takeout only as all of Ontario locks down.
It's like putting people in jail without them actually committing a crime.
Why some businesses say the new measures are unfair. Plus, combing for clues in Nashville.
We have over 500 investigative leads, and we're following up on every one of those.
Investigators scour the scene after a mysterious Christmas Day blast.
Global National with Robin Gill. Reporting tonight, Colleen Christie.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news on the spread of COVID-19 in Canada. In Ontario, 2 people have tested positive for that new, more contagious strain of the virus, which was first detected in the UK, and officials don't know how they got it. It's a rattling development for the province, which just today entered a sweeping lockdown to try to get its surging case numbers under control. For the last 12 days, Ontario has recorded more than 2,000 new cases a day. Between yesterday and today, more than 4,300 new cases were confirmed and 81 more deaths reported. For more on what we know about this new strain in Ontario, let's bring in Global's Abigail Bimman. Abigail, what can you tell us about it?
Colleen, Ontario officials say the couple from Durham region are now self-isolating, and notably they had no known travel history nor exposure. While Health Canada says it's monitoring closely, but also points out there is no evidence yet whether the new strains cause people to get more sick or have an impact on vaccine effectiveness. While the scientific head of Ontario's COVID-19 advisory group tells Global News the fact this is community transmission suggests there's a high probability there are more cases out there, and he says it's more important than ever people follow the new lockdown rules. From stampeding shoppers,
my first time to order online,
to curbside pickup, like everything else in COVID-19 riddled 2020, Boxing Day is different.
We're offering different ways to shop online, whether it's through curbside pickups, ordering directly to your home. So far, as you can see, our parking lot has been steady.
New restrictions are now in place across Ontario for 28 days in the south and 14 days in the north. Non-essential stores closed, limited capacity at the rest, and students will learn virtually when the break is over. There's pushback at the Ford government's decision to let some big box stores stay open.
They should, just for groceries only, just for the stuff that you really need.
Ontario and Quebec are the big parts of the Canadian economy, right? So when you're locking them down 14 to 28 days and restricting them to curbside delivery as the extent of their retail experience, it's going to have an impact, right? Not surprisingly, retail is a big part of the Canadian economy.
The owner of Ebb and Flow knows that. Sherry Wallace made no money in 2020.
It's like putting people in jail without them actually committing the crime.
Like many others, including Ottawa's mayor and top doctor, she's pushing back against the sweeping lockdown, with Ottawa's case numbers relatively low. There's currently 1 patient in the ICU. Wallace's customers can shop online, but she isn't expecting similar sales.
Regardless of what was reported in the Financial Post by a man, women like to see it, touch it, try it on, feel it. We do not like to return it to the post office.
While many healthcare workers are on the front lines this day, holiday or not, this emergency room physician says morale among her colleagues is low.
We don't have to have applause and you don't have to give us free food, but we do ask, please wear a mask and stay home.
She knows the lockdown can be frustrating and says healthcare workers appreciate the sacrifices people make when they follow the rules in an effort to lower case numbers. Abigail Bimman, Global News, Ottawa.
Millions of people in the UK are now living under tough new restrictions as officials scramble to contain that more contagious variant of COVID-19. In total, more than 40% of all people in England are now under Tier 4 restrictions. That means non-essential businesses are closed and people are being warned to stay home. The UK's new variant has now been detected in Sweden. Health authorities there say a traveler from the UK became ill and tested positive. Switzerland, France, and Spain have also confirmed their first cases of the new strain. all with links to the UK. Japan is tightening its borders after detecting several cases of the new strain. According to public broadcaster NHK, starting Monday, non-resident foreigners will be barred from entering the country. The ban will last until the end of January. The U.S. now has nearly 19 million COVID cases, and today unemployment benefits may run out. It'll leave about 14 million Americans with no money coming in. President Donald Trump, who's at his Florida resort tweeting more baseless claims about election fraud, has refused to sign a government spending bill and COVID-19 relief package. If it doesn't go through, a partial government shutdown could begin Tuesday, leaving millions of federal workers without a paycheck. Jennifer Johnson has more.
As U.S. President Donald Trump spends his holiday in Florida, an unwelcome present has arrived for millions of out-of-work Americans. Their unemployment benefits have officially run out after the president refused to sign Congress's $900 billion coronavirus aid bill.
I try not to dwell on the what if, what will I do next? Because to be honest, I've run out of what I'm going to do next.
Millions of people have gone without real paychecks for several months after the pandemic shut down businesses across the country.
I can't provide for my kids like I normally would.
The president has so far refused to sign the $2.3 trillion spending package, which included the pandemic aid, because it gave just $600 to most Americans. Nor has he vetoed it, which Congress could override. Democrats want to increase the aid amount to $2,000, but Republicans say they won't agree to that.
I can't think of a worse way to greet Christmas than to fail to sign the bill.
The bill also included $8 billion for COVID-19 vaccine distribution as numbers of new cases and deaths continue to surge. Over 118,000 people are hospitalized, battling this often deadly virus in isolation.
It is scary because you just don't know what you're going to expect. You never know how many hands you're going to have to hold whenever there's no families that are able to be there.
Medical experts fear the worst is yet to come. With 8 million people a day traveling through airports, another surge of the virus is expected. Doctors are frustrated so many people believe it's safe to fly.
This concept of safe travel, it just doesn't exist. You can't glove, sanitize, and try to test your way out of that risk. It's virtually impossible.
While hospitals await a post-holiday rush, those who have now lost their jobless benefits wait for help. The Democratic-controlled House plans to meet Monday, but the problem can't be solved until the Republican-controlled Senate goes back to work too. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
In Nashville, Tennessee, authorities are still trying to piece together details about a Christmas Day blast, which they say was an intentional act. According to the Associated Press, investigators have identified a possible person of interest in connection with the detonation of a camper van in the city's downtown early yesterday. Multiple police agencies, including the FBI, are searching a property in a Nashville suburb. The FBI says it's following up on more than 500 tips from the public.
I am fairly confident we will be able to identify an individual or ascertain what has occurred. It's going to take us some time.
Police were called to the scene at around 6 o'clock Christmas morning for reports of gunfire. When they arrived, a warning was broadcast from the vehicle saying it would blow up. The explosion badly damaged dozens of buildings. At least 3 people were hurt. All are recovering in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Coming up, cancer game changer, how a BC lab is now making the rarest drug in the world. Researchers are looking for the magic bullet that will eradicate cancer, and they may be one step closer. A lab in BC has found a way to produce an extremely rare cancer drug, one that previously relied on limited supplies of radioactive waste. Jordan Armstrong explains how this major breakthrough could make a major difference.
Let's start with an explanation of the drug researchers are so excited about. 5 years ago, a German man riddled with cancerous tumors and weeks away from death was given an untested drug, which contained a radioactive isotope called actinium-225. 8 months later, the tumors had disappeared.
we're seeing cancer basically be eliminated in some cases. And so those are very early results, but very exciting ones.
Problem is, actinium-225 is incredibly rare. Today, most of the global supply comes from American radioactive waste, but it's barely enough to treat a handful of patients a year. This is where Triumph comes in. Researchers at the UBC facility have found a way to make it in the lab using this, Triumph's high-energy cyclotron. Here's how it works.
The cyclotron speeds up protons to 3/4 of the speed of light using electromagnets. And so it basically shoots it down a beamline. It basically blasts it apart and creates hundreds and hundreds of different isotopes. And one of them is actinium-225,
which is nicknamed the rarest drug on Earth. But Triumph's CEO hopes to change that.
Because we have this incredible cyclotron at Triumph, we have the capability, so the theoretical capability that we can scale up to produce many, many thousands of doses.
A BC cancer researcher says this could open the door to a whole new line of treatment.
It's very hard to develop resistance with actinium. So we anticipate that this will be an effective third, fourth line of treatment in addition to the other treatments that are available.
So what's next? Step 1, establish a supply chain. Step 2, BC clinical trials, hopefully in the next 18 months.
Cancer research, we're seeing a lot of progress. It's like, wanting to send a man to the moon, or a woman to the moon, how to get there. You just need sufficient resources to develop the infrastructure.
A 2020 homegrown triumph for nuclear medicine.
Jordan Armstrong, Global News, Vancouver.
Up next, Canadian politicians come together for a very special reading. It's been an interesting year in Canadian politics, marked by pandemic cooperation and conflict. But the holidays can work magic on even the toughest in Ottawa. And what better way to put politics aside than with Storytime and Santa Claus?
Well, Boom Santa, have all the children from Ottawa been good this year? Well, mostly, answered the little old elf as he bustled across the busy workshop to Santa's desk. Santa peered down at the elf from behind the tall, teetering piles of letters that the children of Ottawa had sent him. Mostly, asked Santa, looking over the top of his glasses. Yes, they've all been especially good in the last few days, said the elf. Jolly good, chuckled Santa. Then we better get their presents loaded up.
Even though the sack of presents was really, really big, and the elves were really, really small, they seemed to have no trouble loading it into Santa's sleigh. Though how they managed to fit such a big sack into one little sleigh, even they didn't know. But somehow they did. Splendid, boomed Santa. We're ready to go. Not quite, Santa, said one little old elf. One of our reindeer is missing.
Missing? Which reindeer is missing? Asked Santa. The youngest one, Santa, said the elf. It's his first flight tonight. I've called him, but just then a young reindeer strolled up, munching on a large carrot. Where have you been? Asked Santa. But the youngest reindeer was crunching so loudly that it was no wonder he hadn't heard the little old elf calling. Oh well, never mind, said Santa, giving the reindeer a little wink. He took out his Santa nav and tapped in the coordinates for Ottawa. This will guide us to Ottawa in no time.
With a flick of the reins and a jerk of the harness, off they went, racing through the sky. Ho, 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 laughed Santa. We'll soon have these presents delivered to Bytown.
Santa's sleigh flew through the starry night, heading south across the Arctic Ocean. On they flew in the wintry air, crossing over Nunavut. In the wink of an eye, the sleigh was flying over Hudson Bay and on towards Ontario. The youngest reindeer was very excited. He had never been away from the North Pole before. They were just nearing Gatineau Park, when suddenly they ran into a blizzard. Snowflakes whirled around the sleigh. They couldn't see a thing. The youngest reindeer was getting a bit worried, but Santa didn't seem concerned. In 2 miles, said the Santa nav in a bossy lady's voice. Keep left at the next star. But ma'am, Santa blustered, I can't see any stars in all this snow. And soon they were hopelessly lost.
Then, through the blizzard, the youngest reindeer heard a faint ringing sound. Ding dong. He looked over at the old reindeer with the red nose, but he had his head down. Red nose, I wonder who that could be. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. There was that sound again, like church bells ringing. The youngest reindeer turned around to look at Santa, but Santa wasn't listening. He seemed to be arguing with a little box with buttons on it. With a flick of the harness and a jerk of the reins, the youngest reindeer gave a sharp tug and headed off toward the sound of the bells, pulling Santa and his sleigh behind him.
Whoa, cried Santa as he pulled his hat straight. What's going on? Then to his surprise, he heard a ringing sound. Well done, young reindeer, he shouted cheerfully. It must be the bells of Notre Dame Cathedral Basilica. Don't worry, children, Santa is coming! Oh, crunch! Then he heard something as it plummeted through the snow clouds. You have arrived, said the Santa Nav unhealthily.
Finally, when the snow had died down and the clouds parted, Santa discovered exactly where they were, stuck right at the very top of the Peace Tower on Parliament Hill. Everybody, pull! The reindeer pulled with all their might until, at last, with a screeching noise, the sleigh scraped clear of the tower and Santa steered them safely past the Golden Triangle, along Rideau Canal, and down into Commissioner's Park. Luckily, there was no real damage done, but the packages had all been jumbled up. Santa quickly sorted out the presents into order again. All right, said Santa. Thanks to this young reindeer, I know where we are now. Don't worry, children. Santa is coming.
In house after house, Santa delved inside his sack for packages of every shape and size. He piled them under the Christmas trees and carefully filled up the stockings with surprises. In house after house, the good children of Ottawa had left out a large plate of cookies, a small glass of milk, and a big, crunchy carrot. Santa took a little bite out of each cookie, a tiny sip of milk, wiped his beard, and popped the carrots into his sack.
Finally, Santa had delivered the last present on his long Canada list. Great moons and stars, sighed Santa. It's past midnight and my sack seems as heavy as ever. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. Santa opened his sack to check, but it was full of juicy, crunchy carrots. Santa divided the carrots among all the reindeer. Well done, he said, patting the youngest reindeer gently on the nose. But the youngest reindeer didn't hear him. He was too busy munching. Then it was time to set off for home. Santa reset his Santa Nav once more to the North Pole, and soon they were speeding over Nathan Phillips Square, across the Great Lakes, past Olympic Park, and above Mount Logan through the crisp, starry night. Ho, 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 laughed Santa. Merry Christmas, Canada.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Joyeux Noël à tous, and mostly, Happy New Year. I know it's going to be a better one.
That's Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Colleen Christie. Tonight's Your Canada is Regina Beach, Saskatchewan. We love to see your part of this beautiful country. Email your photos to viewers@globalnational.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night.